Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of Jake Talks Star Wars, and today we are talking about Star Wars Visions. We're continuing our discussions of Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Visions dropped just yesterday. I'm planning on posting this on Thursday, so Star Wars Visions dropped just yesterday. I got some original thoughts, some initial thoughts, some reactions out yesterday, but I want to continue with our kind of reactions and recaps to each individual episode. So diving right into it, we're going to go into Volume 3, Episode 1, The Duel, Payback. This conversation is going to have spoilers. So if you haven't watched The Duel, Payback yet, if you haven't watched Volume 3 of Visions yet, this is your chance to turn this off, to go back and watch it, and then come back and watch me. So spoilers from here on out. You have been warned, right? You have been warned. There are spoilers from here on out. But that being said, The Duel Payback is pretty interesting. I like it a lot. We dive right into what the Ronin is doing. He's on this, he's at this illicit gambling den made up of a couple of Imperial walkers, a couple of AT-AT walkers, and he is he's looking for somebody. He's looking for somebody, and again, just in the opening scenes, I'm struck with the use of color. I'm struck with how it's grainy, how they are purposely trying to make this look grainy, to kind of be in that vein of these old Japanese samurai Ronin movies, like, those old Kurosawa movies. And I love how many aliens are in this series, right? We have all these different aliens that are just appearing everywhere. We've got Rhodians and Gran and everything else, and everything in Wookiees, and later, even later, we get Ewoks, right? And I love the little guy. There's this little guy that's like in charge of the gambling den, and he has this mechanism, this harness that he rides on top of this, with this Wookiee, and he talks into this harness that like translates his speech for him, I guess. And he rides this Wookiee, and it just reminds me of Master Blaster from Thunderdome, right? If you've ever seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, there's this character called Master Blaster. That's what that reminds me of. And I laughed and laughed, and that's why I kept calling this guy, this little teeny guy with this Wookiee sidekick, I kept calling him Master Blaster, because that's just what that reminds me of. But I digress. So I really love the design and the visuals that we see in this episode just right off the bat. It's really, really good. And then we dive into our story. We think, okay, cool, the Ronin is fighting with this other Sith who's she's like the bouncer for this gambling den, right? She's like the bouncer. She's the one making sure there's no trouble. The Sith is the Ronin is going to fight her. And they end up fighting, but then they're interrupted by a new character who we saw at the very beginning of the episode, who is this, we never learn his name or anything like that. He just kept referring to himself as the Grand Master Jedi, the Grand Master Jedi. And we see through flashbacks that he's got history with the Ronin, and he has been grievously wounded by the Ronin. He lost his legs. It looks like the Ronin slashed at his face with a lightsaber, and he wears this really creepy mask, where it's this really creepy mask where he's got this one look on his face all the time, and it's a happy look regardless of what he's saying. And so that's really creepy, And then when the Jedi arrives, he's got his little starfighter, and he's got these other ships kind of in tow, and they keep calling themselves Crusaders. They keep saying, oh, the Crusaders are here to cleanse this planet. The Crusaders are here to bring justice. The Crusaders are here to whatever. And you hear the underlings talk to the Grand Master saying, oh, you're going to get your revenge today. And he's like, no, we don't do that. But why is he doing this then? Right? He's still pursuing this in the name of justice, right? To get justice for this, for his own wounds, I guess. They when he attacks the Ronin, he kind of attacks the whole gambling den. He doesn't really discriminate. He attacks the whole region because he's trying to attack the Ronin. He has his ships fire on everything around. He's going to attack this other Sith Lord as well. And it's, again, like I have in my notes here, this Jedi is not good, right? This is not a good Jedi. This guy's got an axe to grind. This guy's got some kind of problems. And he defeats the Ronin and the other Sith. He defeats both of them, but they get away. They're not, he's not able to administer the killing stroke. So that leads us to probably the most fun part of the Duel Payback, which is Ewoks. Ewoks are part of this story, and they rescue the Sith. They rescue the Sith. They rescue the Ronin, and they rescue our little droid friend, right? Because the Jedi did chop up the Ronin's droid into a gazillion pieces, but they're working on fixing him, so that's fun. That's good. And as the story progresses, one of the other things that really struck out to me again is the homage they pay to the original movies, to Kurosawa, to Star Wars. We get the wipe editing, where it just wipes from the side or from the top or the whatever, and it's just that visual element is just so viscerally Star Wars, and I love that they're using it. I love that they are using it for their storytelling here, because it makes go, oh right, I am in a Star Wars story, right? So that's cool. But they decide, the Sith and the Ronin and the gamblers and everybody else decide they're going to team up against these Jedi and fight these Jedi, because these Jedi are causing issues. This Jedi and his goons are causing issues, so they're going to team up against him. And the Ewoks are going to set all these different traps, and the Ewoks are going to set all these traps. The Ronin and the Sith are going to fight him together. And we get some really interesting, really incredible action in this episode, right? We get some really great action in this episode. The thing that struck me, which is neat, because we don't really get to see it in Jedi, but some of these Ewok traps that the Ewoks set are straight up downright brutal, right? And we see these cute little Ewoks like shanking these guys with their spears as they're falling down and shooting them with arrows. And some of these traps are just downright brutal, and just terrifying. But it kind of goes to show you, the Ewoks are not. They may look cute, fuzzy, and cuddly, but they're not. They mean business when they're fighting. So that was really fun to see. And then you get the Sith Lord, the Sith. Former bar bouncer, the former gambling den bouncer, fighting against the Jedi, and she's got this prosthetic arm that pops out with a gazillion lightsabers, and they're all, fighting like this, and it's really visually interesting to see, and it's really visually interesting to see, and it's unique. It's a different take on how many blades is too many blades for a lightsaber. And it's almost meta, because the Grand Master is annoyed at this contraption. He's okay, fine, whatever, and he deals with it. So I like how he's kind of annoyed with this contraption, like a lot of people in the real world could be. But it is very interesting to see. It's very unique. The Grand Master fights against the Ronin, and they have this long discussion about what's going on and everything else, and it really becomes clear that the Ronin, whatever he is, we're not sure what his morality is, right? He's a former Sith Lord. He hunts Sith. He still uses a red lightsaber and all these other things, but he hunts Sith now. But he's apparently had this run-in with this Jedi in the past. But this Jedi now has just this axe to grind against him and will not let it go. And the Ronin is kind of telling him, hey, you've lost your way. You have lost your way. You are not a Jedi anymore. You're barely a man because of all these, all these injuries. But not just because of all these injuries, but just because of how he's behaving. He's not just going after the Ronin, he's going after everybody else. And they're crusading in this journey for he calls it justice, right? He keeps saying it's justice, but it's not. It's vengeance. He wants to get this guy. He wants to get this guy. And the Ronin knows that. The Ronin's like, no, you're the one that's lost your way. You're the one that's having an issue. You're the one that's having a problem. And and it's really, really interesting. And like I said in my initial reaction, it's interesting because it kind of turns it on its head, what you would expect, right? We don't go into these stories expecting to root for the person with a red lightsaber. We don't go into these stories expecting to root for the person who is a, quote, Sith. The Jedi, though, here is clearly lost his way. He's clearly having issues. He's clearly, I wrote in my notes, he's gone mad with vengeance, right? Because I think he has. I don't think he's what a Jedi should be at this point anymore. He is this shell of what a Jedi used to be, right? So it's an interesting story. I like how the story goes. The Ronin decides to let this particular Sith off the hook at the end. Well, no, not really. They end up fighting again at the end because he's like, hey, listen, the truce is over. And they end up fighting at the end, but then it kind of just credits roll. So it's interesting to see. I want to know more about the Ronin. I want to know more about what his deal is. I want to see more of his story, and I think that's the whole point, right? That's good storytelling. It kind of it tells this story, but it leaves you wanting a little bit more, which is good, I think. I know there's a book about the Ronin. I might have to find it and check that out because that might answer some of the questions I have about him. But all in all, Season 3, Episode 1, The Duel, Payback, is a great opener for Season 3 or Volume 3 of Visions. It's a lot of fun. It's dynamic. It's visually incredible. It's got good action. It's got a good, interesting story. That again, you don't have to worry about fitting into everything else. You just kind of enjoy the story. So it's a very interesting idea, and I liked it a lot, and it's worth checking out. So that's my thoughts on The Duel Payback for Volume 3 of Star Wars Visions. Check it out if you haven't already. Let me know what you think. Did you like this episode of Visions? Did you like this continuation of the Ronin's story? Do you want to see more of the Ronin's story? Let me know in the comments below. And you can let me know in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Threads or on Instagram and let me know there as well at Jake Talks Star Wars. And as usual, guys, as always, remember, take care of each other out there, and may the Force be with you. Bye-bye.